Hello. What's up, everybody? Long time no stream. Um, we have we've been busy. Uh, Jballs is unfortunately not able to join us this evening, but that is a that is for another time. So the goal today is we have a resource base about northwest from our headquarters, and that's what we're gonna go for today. And it should be just a regular stream. It should be nothing out of the ordinary. We're gonna see we're gonna try our best, and hopefully it goes well. Um, and yeah, there might be some questions about where exactly we've gone, and and all I can really say is that life happens. There are days where you have some free time, and there are days where you don't, and it's pretty normal to just be occupied for a little bit. But then, luckily, after a while, some time gets freed. So I'm sure some of you have heard of the expression bread and circus. And for those of you that haven't, it's basically an expression for pacifying a population. A population has many things to worry about. A population has to worry about their food, their family, their safety. And some of you may also know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the pyramid is structured in ascending order of what is most basic. So the very first level of the pyramid is, of course, it's food, it's air, it's water, it's the basic stuff you need to live. Once you have that basic needs fulfilled, then you move on to something else. You move on to shelter, you move on to warmth, you move on to safety. And once you have those satisfied, you then move on to more superficial stuff and more stuff that's not necessarily important for you to live, but it's something more of something that you want. It's something that you want. And so the very end is social. It is society related. And as many of you know, society is the conglomeration of a bunch of people. It is the social norms, what is acceptable in that group of people. For example, in different countries, different things are acceptable. In some parts of the world, you can't say whatever you want. In some parts of the world, you could get in trouble for saying what you want. They were being shot at. But oh shit, there's someone else. Crap. In the Western world, the very West, in the United States, you have freedom to do pretty much whatever you want, as long as it doesn't affect others. That is true in some cases, but there are some cases where that's not true. You could look at many examples where people mind their own business, they don't affect anybody, and for some reason, someone comes into their lives and starts dictating what they should do, or that they should do it a different way. Which, when you think about it, it defeats the whole purpose of being told you can do anything. If you tell somebody you can do anything, but you have to do it my way, then there's not really a purpose to saying you can do anything if it has to be according to someone else's rules. If you build something on your property, you have to get a permit for it. If you want to expand your property, expand your land area, you have to get a permit for that. If you want to build something on your land, you have to get someone else's permission. Since when do I have to ask somebody for permission to do something that is mine? No one really thinks about this, and maybe it's for the best. Maybe it is silly to think about these small, minute things that don't really affect your life. But the thing is, it is a slippery slope. It's something that starts small, but before you know it, it is something major. It is something that you thought was in your control, which has now slipped your hands. It has slipped your grasp. It has fallen through your fingers. Something that used to be completely in control is now completely under someone else's. And the reason why that is because it always starts small. You never tell somebody something that you want them to do. If you want to borrow some money, if you want to get $100 from somebody, you're not going to say, hey, can I borrow $100? Sure, that could work on some people, but for a majority of people, it's be like, they're going to say, no, that's way too much. Sorry, I can't afford that at the moment. What you do is you slowly work your way towards that $100. And the way to do that psychologically, that's appealing to somebody, is you have to start very big. But not too big. You have to start where it's reasonably big. If you start at a very outrageous number, let's say for example you start at 10,000, someone could say, I don't even make that much in a year, I don't even have that money, I don't know where I could even get it to you. They're going to instantly decline, they're going to shut down. They're going to say, this person might be making fun of me, this person might be trying to use me. So what you have to do is you have to start at a slightly bigger number. You have to say, can I borrow $500? That person's going to say either yes or no. If that person says yes, well, you win, because you get more money than you expected to get. Because remember, your initial offer, what you want, is you want that $100. Getting $500 means you've gotten 5 times more what you want. But if that person says no, now what do you have to do? Now you have to work your way down to your goal. From 500, you can go to 300. From 300, you can keep going until you get to 100. Once you get to 100, now is the final option. The final decision depends on that person's answer. If they answer yes, well, you get what you want. If that person answers no, well, what do you have to do now? Now what you have to do is you have to evaluate. You have to think about, am I okay with getting less than $100, or should I give up and try another person? Most of you will say that, well, if I need $100, I can get $50 from this person, I can get $10 from this person, and keep asking until I get $100. It's not ridiculous to think that way. It's not absurd to think of getting your money in little different bits. Now, this may seem pointless, whatever I'm talking about may seem pointless, but when you think about it, is this really different than what the government does? Is this really different than what those with influence over us have? I don't think so. The people that are in control have total control. Although it may not seem like that to you, these people have an entire army. These people have a force that listens to them. No matter what they say to do, they listen to them. We have many examples of this. There have been some experiments where people ask the question, they pose the question, how could such atrocities, such as the ones that occurred in World War II, have occurred? Many of us, if not all of us, would say, I would never do that because I know it was wrong. Well, that's where this experiment comes in. It was an experiment back in the 1900s where people were given a position of power. They had the ability to electrify somebody. They did not see this person they were electrifying, but they could hear them. And these people were instructed by someone to what seemed to them, in a higher authority than them. In this case, it was a scientist in a lab coat. And that scientist progressively told them that if the person who's being asked questions asked wrong, or answered wrong, the questions wrong, that they should be shocked. They should be electrified. And so little by little, each time the person answered the question wrong, it was purposeful, they weren't actually being shocked, it was just an actor yelling. But every time this person got a question wrong, the scientist instructed them to slightly and slowly raise the voltage. And there was even a marking on the voltage machine that he used to electrify the victim, where past a certain point, past a certain voltage, it was fatal. It was written onto the machine itself. And guys, 1 second. And the person that was in charge of electrifying the people, the victim, was aware that if they kept going, someone would die. And now some of you might think, why would they listen? Why would they keep obeying the person, the scientist in the lab coat, when they knew it could result in someone's death, an innocent person's death, and their crime being answering questions wrong, which were simple questions such as, is the sky blue? And they would say, no. That's obviously the wrong answer, but is it really a crime to answer it wrong? That's great. Oh my gosh. Shoot, guys. That just cut into my train of thought. I think I'm cooked. We're just gonna respawn. But when you think about it, the reason why these people listened is because they saw the scientist as a higher authority. Imagine being in a room that you are not familiar with, and someone telling you, I need you to collect the names of these people. I need you to write them down and then bring them to me. Well, you might ask some questions, but ultimately, you're going to listen to what that person says. A lot of it has to do with psychological strength. A lot of it has to do with your ability to say no. But for most people, they want to avoid those types of situations. They want to avoid situations where they get into an awkward position and they are forced to say something that's positive to the other person. Have you ever walked down the street or been into a public place and someone comes up to you? Usually it's like a surveyor or something. They come up to you and they ask you a question. Or it could be someone handing out pamphlets of something. Depending on how that person approaches you, you might feel bad saying no. So even if you don't want that pamphlet, that political pamphlet or that religious pamphlet that they're handing out, you might still accept it because it might be someone with a look in their eyes, or the way that they spoke to you with such a nice manner that even if you say no, they would still insist and be like, okay, that's fine, just hold on to this. You can just take a look at it. I know I've been in that situation before. I know that even I know I didn't want whatever they were giving out, whatever thing they were saying, it did not interest me. But out of this sort of almost internal feeling, you almost feel like you're obligated to answer positively. You feel like in order to not disappoint this person or not be able to seem like a rude person, you have to accept it. Going back to the experiment where someone's fake life, of course, thankfully, was lost because the people were simply just following orders. They were simply following orders. And why did they follow them? Because they felt like they had to. Imagine being in a different room you've never been in, and someone tells you to do something. Well, you're gonna listen to it because you don't know the repercussions of denying or saying no. No one knows those repercussions. Oh my gosh. No one knows those repercussions. It could be something like they start shooting at you and then they throw grenades at you. It could be that. Or it could be nothing at all. But we don't know. No one knows what could happen. And we don't want to figure out what could happen. So what's the easier option? The easier option is to just obey with what's being told to us. No doubt, many people have gone to school and they've experienced something very simple, something very simple, something very meaningless. Something simple as an order by the teacher or the person that's in charge, the principal, for example, tells you to take off your hoodie. And what did you do? Well, most of you took off your hoodie because you felt like you had to. There'd be some threats if you disobeyed. Sometimes they would say, well, if you don't, I'm going to call your parents. If you don't, you're going to be in trouble. No one wants to be in trouble. No one wants to be the one that's the cause of something. No one wants to be the one is a troublemaker. No one wants to be the one that's at fault for something. If you've ever been on a family trip before, if you've ever done something wrong, you know the terrible feeling of being told Why did you do this? Why? Do you know what's gonna happen now? Everyone's been there, and everyone hates that feeling. Because it's something that's so simply avoided by doing what? Well, everyone knows the answer. The simple way to avoid that bad feeling of being out of place, of being the odd one out, is to conform. If you conform, you're able to avoid all of that trouble. You're not going to be the troublemaker. You're going to be the one that's an upstanding citizen, the one that follows the rules, the one that's really trustworthy, and the one without a label that says, stay away from this person, because they can affect you. Now, what is conformity? When you think about conformity, what do you usually think about? When I think about conformity, I think about seeing a uniform and being part of that uniform. Conformity is not standing out. Conformity is the ability to blend in order to avoid being picked on. It is a self-defense mechanism from any sort of psychological pressure, from any sort of psychological damage. Being called out for some people is a very anxiety-inducing thing. Get out right now. Okay, I think it's good. As I was saying, conformity is the uniform you wear in order to avoid any sort of confrontation. When you're in a public place, for the majority of people, for 90% of people, for 99% of people, they want to go on with their day and they want to be left alone. Everybody hates being called out. Everybody hates being the one that has to go in front of the classroom, go in front of work, go in front of wherever, to do something public, to do something that's going to be seen by everybody. No one wants to be wrong. No one wants to go in front of their colleagues and be made fun of because of the wrong answer. Even if you're confident and you know the answer is 4, you might hesitate in raising your hand because even though you're so certain of what the answer is, what if you're wrong? What if something happened? What if the question is worded differently? And for some reason, even though you're sure the answer is 4, you're afraid that it might not be. What if the professor is looking for something else? What if the professor is asking a different type of question? What happens then? You answer 4, and then what happens if it's wrong? The professor is going to single you out. You will be looked down upon by other colleagues. You will be looked at, and your answer will be wrong. The entire classroom, the entire workspace, the entire public area will know what you thought was wrong. And sure, no one thinks like this. Everybody remembers it for a couple of seconds, and then it goes away. But what if they don't? What if something that seems simple is actually a very complex thing? What if instead of an incorrect math question, what if it's something political? What if it's something religious? What if it's something philosophical that has many interpretations? And what if answering that question wrong means that now you are the excluded one? You are the infected one that no one wants to be around. The dangerous answer to this is to simply not care about it anymore. The solution to this is to feel numb towards it, but that is a very dangerous path. If you become numb to this sort of thing, then if you still value the value of society, you're going to lose the value that it once held. If you still care for your name, for your prestige, for your accomplishments, it is in the risk, because once you stop caring, society will not accept you anymore. It's something that you can't go back from, unless you go to a different spot and, of course, have a new identity or something like that. For most cases, nothing comes of it. For some cases, it does. The reason why everyone conforms is because everyone does not want to be that little group that has to change how they live. They don't want to be the ones that have to work hard for something they can just simply avoid altogether. Why would you go through the effort of disagreeing with everyone when all you can do is just agree, is just conform, and you can avoid this whole issue? That's what most people do. That's what most people think. Why should I risk my well-being? Why should I risk something that I value when I can just not risk it at all? Why should I do that? That's a good question. Most people don't. If that works for you, that's fine. If that works for you, that's fine. But eventually, there's going to be a time, there's going to be a point in your life, a point in the future, where something goes a little bit too far. Something like an invasion of your home. An invasion of a personal space you thought was sacred and only special to you is now going to be occupied by someone else. It is going to be something that is not only yours, but now it's theirs also. Something so simple as... and that guy's alive. Something so simple as letting someone speak to you a certain way can have major ramifications. Ooh, got him. Can have major ramifications. Whoa. Get down there, boy. Whoa. Holy fuck. Hey. Damn, that guy came out of nowhere. Oh yeah, he's dead. Maxis is dead. This guy, bro. Am I going to be able to live? Something, like I was saying, that starts small can slowly snowball into something more drastic. Going back to our example about the $300 or the $100 borrowing of money. You never go with the full amount. You never tell somebody, I'm going to tax you 100% of your income. I'm going to tax you 50% of everything that you own. You never start like that. You always start with the smallest amount possible. You always start with 1%. You always start with 5%. With the intention, of course, that eventually it's going to be more than that. The problem then is now it's something willing. Now when you start to question something like, why is the percentage so high? Why and where is this money going to? Why is it going to this and not this? Why is it helping to fund this and not to fund this? It doesn't matter. Once that money leaves your hands, once that money leaves you, it doesn't matter anymore. Because now it's in the hands of someone that you willingly gave that money to. For you to question it now would be ridiculous, because you've already agreed to it. You've agreed to work so many days of your life, and many of those days being for free. Days where you've had $100 paycheck, where you've had $1,000 paycheck. Some of those days don't count. Some of those weeks that you had to get up early, that you had to sit in traffic in, some of those weeks, those months didn't matter because of a small snowballing effect. It starts small, then it gets bigger. That's what she said. But it starts small and it gets bigger. Because that is the only way, psychologically, to get what you want. You have to start small. You have to pick at a mountain in order to get the whole thing down. You have to slowly... Whoa, what kind of uniform is that? You have to slowly work at something. You can never just instantly accomplish something in one day. Rome was not built in a day, and neither was any of this. Any of this being the system that was constructed. The willingness for people to go to bed every single day, living their lives as normal, and answering to somebody. Well, I might just start my own business. That's great. But you know what? You're still going to have to answer somebody. You're still going to have to tell somebody something, what you're doing. You're going to have to tell them how much money you made. You're going to have to tell them what you've been doing. Or else. Many of you have no doubt probably never experienced something like this. It'd be very impressive and shocking that somebody would have experienced the hand of the government firsthand. But if you have, you're one of the few people that are able to talk about what can actually happen. Besides that, the rest of the people can only speculate. They can only imagine what's going to happen. They can only think about what's going to happen. They can only ask about what's going to happen. Because no one really knows. Except for the people that have experienced it. Everything is planned. Everything is structured the way it is because someone decided that it should be like that. Somebody decided that you should be working this amount of hours to make this amount of money to buy this sort of thing. If you don't like it, well, guess what? You're not going to have food to eat. You're not going to have that new thing you're looking to buy. You're not going to be able to live comfortably. You're not going to be able to live safely. And you know what happens when you don't get any of those? The worst thing that can happen to a human. They die. They are killed. They are starved. They die of thirst. Or they die alone. These people, these criminals, as seen in the eyes by those with influence, don't deserve to live. Because they refused to play by our rules. They refused to go to work every single day. They refused to go to school every single day. They refused to play part of the system that was constructed to be this way. They want you to listen. They want you to not only listen, but to participate in it. They want you to provide for it. They want you to obey the system. Sure, you could live on governmental aid. You could live on all of these sorts of different aid programs. You could live doing all that. And if it works, it works. Maybe that is the real answer. Maybe that is the way to fight back. Maybe the way to break the system is to do the exact opposite of contributing to it. Is to take from it. Maybe the way to fix the system is to avoid altogether. When the colonial Americans first came to America, what did they have? There was the free land promise where anyone that came into a plot of land could claim it as their own. And it was theirs. No one had to facilitate the deal. They didn't have to pay anybody. They just had to take care of the land and make it their own. How is that possible? How could somebody do that individually? How could somebody just do it? How could they? Because what everyone has been taught to believe is that without the system, you're nothing. You need assistance. You need the help of someone above you. You need to be able to call a number and get someone's help. Because if you don't, well, you're not gonna have a good life. you're not gonna be able to function in a proper way. Oh, I domed that guy. Oh my gosh, that was a good hit. All right, guys, I'm gonna see what we have to do here. He's in pain. All right, we're gonna get some morphine. It's got that gasp, that relaxing, relieving sigh. Ooh, oh, come on. Oh, I mean his hip must be broken, right? I guess not, since he's still walking, still running actually. Oh, I feel like I got him. Alright guys, enough of this gloom, this dark gloom, I should say. Come on, we gotta keep living. We gotta keep doing what we're doing, huh? Shoot. Okay, at least he's not in pain now. Everyone needs to find something that makes them happy. The way to find true happiness is to find true happiness. It is the ability to do something and you feeling fulfilled by that. It's not something that you can say makes you happy. It's something that you can feel makes you happy. Something that you can say makes you happy. Okay, sure, you can say that, but does it really make you happy? Does it really fulfill what you look for? When you wake up every morning and you think of doing that thing, is it that thing that puts a smile to your face? Smile on your face? Oh my gosh. Oh, jeez. Jeez Louise, guys. What's this guy strolling for? That's what I thought, bro. Come on, dude. There's gonna be a lot of bodies to pick up, man. There's some explosions going on outside. I don't know if someone's doing real life ANTISTASI or what, but I don't know if I should be worried or not. Hopefully it's just fireworks. Or at the very worst, hopefully it's gunshots. Hopefully I'm just imagining that I'm hearing that. What I will say is that there's very interesting things going on right now. I'm sure some of you have seen the Epstein files, or at least heard about them. What's not being discussed is how severe this type of thing is. Somebody that was an offender of sorts, particularly with underage people, he was so intertwined. He is, or was, there's some people saying he's still alive, but I don't know. He was so intertwined with such big political idols. These are people that are heads of state. These are people that voted for their country. These are people that would make decisions that impacted their country and their people. And they were just casually chilling with this guy who turns out to be exploiting people, exploiting children. Okay. He was exploiting children. And these heads of state were just with him. And no one seems to be talking about it. No one is rioting, no one is protesting, no one is saying, hey, what the is this? What is this? Even if they do, it blows over in like a couple of hours. No one pays attention to it anymore. Which is mind-blowing. The next thing you see on your phone, you're just like, oh, yeah, Epstein was with the president. Who cares? Next thing. Move on. That's so terrible. I can't believe he did that. What's the next thing? Who posts? What's the next drama? What's the new thing going on? That's what people really care about. If you make sure that your people are fed, if you make sure that everyone is happy, if everyone is getting their bare minimum, the bare minimum of what they need, the bare necessities, who's gonna complain? You're gonna make a big fuss because the guy in charge was a criminal? You're gonna make a fuss about that? Bro, I gotta worry about if my kids are gonna be fed. I don't have time to worry about this. How does that affect me? How is that going to impact my daily life? I'm worried about the price of eggs. I'm worried about the price of whatever. This is childish. This is childish stuff, literally. Why is it affecting me? It don't concern me. That's like the last thing on my list. Jeremy spoke in class today. That's a good song, guys. I like that song. Ne žaidimas? What's up, guys? Sorry for the abrupt cut, but there were some issues, and we just teleported back to the base. Got some kills, got some bodies, got some guns. That's it. Now we're gonna drop it off and see what good we can get. Might actually call it a night, actually, since we've got probably about an hour of streaming, and I've not really much else to say. I've said all that there is to say. So I hope that everybody has a good evening wherever you are, and hopefully you can think about what I've said tonight.